Hello, testing. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. Hopefully I got that set up properly. Oh, we didn't post. I'll mute people by default. Yeah, I apparently missed creating the lecture link for this week on Learn, so it wasn't there, but hopefully looks like everyone found that, so welcome. Make sure I've got everything else started here. Okay, hopefully everyone's doing well. Enjoying the warmer weather. That's starting, at least here in Kitchener. We're starting to get some nicer weather. It's supposed to be 10 degrees this week, Celsius, which is craziness. All right, but hopefully you'll have a good weekend as well. Other things going on. Nobody's getting vaccines yet, I imagine, but everywhere has plans for it, hopefully. Let's turn on the chat. Well, that's an interesting shape. It's like a house. It's like you're enclosing an area of the feature space with a like a boundary defined by some classifier. And you got your outliers on the outside, those little infinity symbols are outliers. And then somebody puts in a green line to cut them in half. Just do commentary on your art as machine learning algorithms. Great, so we're up to 43 people now, so that's good. Let's see what else. Today we're going to talk about anomaly detection, which is something I was initially going to do as a short little comment at the end into last week's stuff, but there was enough new content there. I'm like, oh, let's just expand it. So we'll talk about that today. And then tomorrow we'll start talking about deep learning. And so basically, today's topics will be the end of the second phase of the course. So the stuff for test 2 would be basically topics up to today. And then the stuff from tomorrow and onwards would be for the final test at the end of classes. And somebody has a question about test 1, and I wanted to have a announcement about the schedule to make sure people had seen that. Right, explanations for the test 1 answers. I did say I was going to get you that for the multiple choice ones, right? Yeah, sorry about that. I will get you guys something for the first questions. We did find another bug in the grading scheme, by the way we had assigned the answers in Learn, because well, I think they fixed it, but the thing that people were worrying about with question 7, you guys were right. We had the wrong scheme posted, and it was a thing that I fixed on that first day when I posted the test, but the way Learn works, you have to enter in updates for every permutation of the answers, and that wasn't happening. So Ghastly went through and did it manually for those ones, but I think most people got those right now. Answer key. Multiple choice. Yeah, I think at this point most people can see from their ones what was the right answer, but I guess it would be helpful to have that as well. So we'll get you that. And what other announcements I was going to have? So I will take over your art for a moment. Oh, that doesn't do it. I need to share screen. I posted this announcement on Friday about some updates, and we mentioned those in the lecture, some of them before other places, but I thought I should put it all in one place to make sure you see it. So I'm just moving my tabs around here. And so what were they? So assignment 3 is released, so people taking a look at that. I know maybe a lot of people haven't, but take a look. It's going to be using the feature extraction, dimensionality reduction, and text processing, so natural language stuff. Hopefully it's not really too complex, just let you apply some of these concepts and basically produce a bunch of different plots showing how they work and explain what you're seeing, try to find some patterns. And then because that was delayed and some other scheduling reasons for this week for lots of students, we moved the test to the following week. So it's not this week, it's next week. And Learn didn't go well this term for this way using learning for the quiz. So I'm either going to do it on paper with CrowdMark, where you just submit it in a window. There's more description on the test 2 page about what I was thinking. If I can get Mobius working, which is this other way of doing question answer, and it's a little easier to control, then I'll use that. But if not, it'll just be something where I send you a PDF. You can write down your answers in LaTeX or on paper, take pictures, or save a PDF and post it back up to CrowdMark. That obviously takes us longer and harder to grade, so we'd rather do Mobius for it. But again, it's about having it all be consistent. And the way it'll work is that the Thursday it'll be available, and then you'll have until the Saturday to submit it. I know a lot of people wanted Saturday last time, so we'll keep that. And you have 3 hours to actually do it. But once you start, you've got 3 hours to finish, and in that period, you just have to pick a time to start. And obviously, if your 3 hours are up before the end of the 3-day period, you're losing some of your time. So that's the same as last time, and they'll be done individually.
Excuse me, Professor?
Yeah. Oh, we have a bunch of questions there. Sorry, I was reading the page. Yeah. Okay. Who is this?
I was going to say that
Chris.
Sorry, my name is Chris. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had a couple technical difficulties getting into the chat today.
Okay. Yeah, we just started.
What was the problem with the test that you were talking about? I was just curious. What was the problem that you said that you wanted to change it? I missed the first part.
You mean for the grading of the first test?
Yeah, or whatever the problem is that you had with the grading, or I guess however the first test was.
Oh, I think we fixed it. Well, I mean, it's just that I found the way the online the quiz questions in Learn worked. We had a lot of problems where I did like multiple choice, and we had the right answer key, but it didn't save, and things got mapped to the wrong ones. That's why we had to do all these regradings for some of them. I've used Mobius before for other classes too, so I'm hoping it's going to be more consistent, or yeah, have less of these problems. So it's just about the tool that's being used.
Okay. Were there any problems in addition to the multiple choice, or like the more automated ones? Were there any problems with the with the handwritten questions?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, no, because people had, they submitted, they'd post up an image, we just had to view it. It's not as easy to grade those ones as it is in CrowdMark, so the way CrowdMark is set up as a tool, it's much easier for the TAs and for me to go through questions and annotate them. The tool for putting an image and annotating and give you guys feedback on Learn is very simple. So if we're going to do something where you write things by hand, CrowdMark's much better.
Okay.
Does that help? Hopefully about the content of people's questions in terms of grading, we've dealt with most people's issues from test one, the ones that were systemically affecting everybody because the grading scheme wasn't saved the correct way. I think we fixed those ones. So now we've got a bunch of questions here. So let me see, look through. What features? Web page link in the last announcement is not showing anything. The web page link in the last announcement. Are we talking about this announcement I'm looking at here? Oh, you mean in Piazza? Okay. Well, you're in it. If you mean the last announcement on Piazza, I was basically posting a link to this meeting. So if you're in this meeting, you succeeded. The TAs are busy grading assignment 2, hopefully by the end of this week. But we didn't get started on that right away because of some other scheduling things. So it might be a little later than that. Yeah, and people were asking for specific answers on test 1. And the first question, maybe before some other people came in and asked for an answer key, I will try to save that out today and send you guys an answer key for those questions. I know I said I'd give it earlier, but then we were dealing with that actual misgrading on question 7 and trying to figure out why it did that, because as I said, we thought we'd solved that right at the beginning, but it turned out that it only had saved one of the permutations of the wrong answers, so we had to go and one of the TAs had to go and manually grade that question again to make sure we got everyone's correct answers in there. Test 2 description page. Yeah, so I mean, if you go in, Learn's a bit funny. If you go to test 2, there's a page here with more details. If you just go to tests, it doesn't show up. And so you have to go into that page's description, but if you just clicking around, you should find it. So it has more details about test 2 and its things there. Yeah, hopefully you can find it. And it could be that you can't, oh, I see, be released. See, that's the thing. Sometimes I can't tell if I can see it because I created it, obviously. And maybe it's not available for you guys. That should be fixable. Activity details. Mean it's visible. Sorry. Yeah, and I'll go out here. Well, starts. Yeah, because it's let's see if that helps. It's only a description anyway, so I was putting it in there so it would be on the calendar, but maybe it ended up we couldn't read the page. Let me know if that helps. It's the hyperlink, the test page 2 isn't working. Yeah, I got it. Great. All right, excellent. So now you can read those details. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so that seems like the main things. And somebody had something about features. Are we to embed in the climate fever data set? This is more about the assignment. And so if you haven't taken a look at the assignment yet, you should take a look. And like I said, we're going to be using some text data sets and some of these dimensionality reduction methods. So there's data sets on this website called Hugging Face. Weird name, great data set. And you don't have to use this climate fever one that we used, but you can pick other ones. That one worked well for what we're asking, so that you know at least that one can work. We're suggesting other ones that are similar size if you want to try them out. If you try something that's like 10,000 sentences, it might actually take your computer a very long time to run it. But it'd be nice for you guys to explore and find other ones that are of interest to you, because this one was kind of like a climate denying, debunking data set to see how many people actually are like spreading misinformation about climate change or not, but they're basically trying to analyze text in articles. And they have some patterns they're trying to learn, right? So you're applying Word2Vec and the glove on this, and then doing plots and PCA on those and plots, and trying to see if you can find interesting patterns. And so a question was, what features are we to embed in the climate feature dataset? I'm not sure what you mean by that. You're not embedding features in the dataset. So when we say embed the dataset with Word2Vec, we mean that you've got the Word2Vec model. So in this case, you're going to take this pre-trained. So Word2Vec has been trained on like Google or Wikipedia or something like that. They have various versions of it at this website, and the link for that is at the end of the assignment. So it's pre-trained, and you basically take the, oh, you mean what features? Right, okay, I get what you're asking. Because this is good for me to test. Yeah, that won't work. Yeah, so each of these, like I said, you can pick other data sets here. And it's kind of cool. Hugging Face is like that. You go to data sets, and you can pick sort of all the data sets here that are a certain size, you know, and maybe some of them, you know, have different patterns in them. You'd have to try each one separately and see which one you like. Right, so some of them will tell you what the structure is, right? So this one has these target queries, and so what you're looking for are sentences like that, right? So you want words. In Climate Fever, it has a bunch of these features built into every record. It's got that claim, and then, right. It should be this evidence one, I think, right? Because that's the actual sentence that happened in the text, and they've separated this out to have some kind of label, so you could do a training thing as well to say this supports it and this is against it. But every one of these evidence features in the JSON database is a sentence that's in this data set, so that's the one you should be using. I'm not sure the relationship between the claim and the evidence sentences. This seems to be more of a meta sentence they've created, right? So, yeah, so I would say it's that one. Okay. I think in the assignment we were asking about how to specifically load it. We didn't give you any specific description on that, did we? Unless we just left it in from last time. Yeah, I mean, use whatever way you want to load it that works for you. I don't care if you're using pandas or CSV. Try something else different. It's about the way it's that you're loading the data and finding that pattern, right? So. Yeah, maybe we should ask that question on Piazza too, and then because Gasly played with this himself and tried it, I assume he used the evidence sentences, but I'd have to look at the whole data set again and see if there's as many claims as evidence sentences, because evidence would be the sentences from actual articles. But you could do both, right? because really what you're doing here is you're just using this as a text corpus. You could use any documents, right? It's just that you know this one has a structure that people have used, so you could connect it to other data being used. And again, you could find other data sets that find interesting. Oh, okay. You already asked that on Piazza, so I'll ask him to look that one up. Yeah, as someone's saying, as I suspected, there's more evidence sentences than claim sentences, but you could use both, right? So why not just use both? They're just sentences. Claims and evidence essentially be getting lots of ones in this data set that are of the same structure, about the same topic. So you'll have, because all we're looking at is the relationship, like we have that king, queen, man, woman relationship kind of thing that happens in the default data sets. Can you do a relationship between polar bears and warming and CO2 or something, for example, from that data set? But you can explore that. And again, if you use a different data set, you would find different sentences. Yeah, I'm thinking claims and evidence column would be useful for using that, because they both seem sentences, so that would work. So let's say that. But again, you just want to use a bunch of text sentences of any kind and use that for training and understanding. This one just is well organized. There's other ones even here in other languages, so if you want to do it in a different language and find these relationships and try to explain why it's meaningful, we can try to confirm that, but it might be interesting to see if there's any results like that that are very different than just this one. Yeah, and someone else has had a question about train test validation. The train test validation thing is more for the remaining questions, because then you're doing PCA and LLE on those embeddings, and so where you have to compute the similarity score, right? So you're applying PCA to the embeddings you get out of Word2Vec, right? And then you can use the scree plot to decide on the number of dimensions, or you just visualize it. And once you have those dimensions, you can actually compute similarity scores for for a bunch of words in the data set. So those scores now are something that you're actually using based on the dimensions you've chosen using PCA or the ones that have come out of LLE. So computing these similarity scores shouldn't be using the data points that were used to create the embedding, right? So you can create apply PCA and LLE in these on the training set, and then your test set you'll use to compute these similarity scores, because they'll be projected into that embedding, but they weren't used to create it in the first place. And the validation set will be used if you have to tune something, right? So in PCA, you have to choose how many dimensions you want to keep, so you should use your validation set to make that decision. So your scree plot will be on your validation set, and then you decide how many dimensions to use, and then your question part 4 of these, where you just compute some similarity scores, would be using the test set. Great. Yeah, related question 1 doesn't make sense. Yeah, for the train test embedding, this is just apply the embeddings of a pre-existing model, try to find some word relationships like this, and then train one from scratch using the first part you're training it from scratch, and then on the last one, right, we say you can find this one that's pre-trained and see if its ones are better than the one you trained, because it's using some pre-trained website with many words and relationships, so it already knows something, whereas the one you trained from scratch here using this code may not be as complicated as that, but it'll be only customized to the data you've been training it on. So you can compare those two. when you train, can you train on the entire data set? That's a good question. I think so. I'm trying to think if there's any reason why you wouldn't. Because in test set, we're not doing classification here on this data, which we could do, but that's not what we're doing. Just keep it simple. Yeah, so you can train on the entire data set in order to learn. Split into train tests, we did say that. But what's the training form? Well, I guess if you've trained it on the embedding, I'm trying to remember what, because we had that in as a placeholder anyways. If you train it on 80% of the data to get your embedding in the first place, and the 10% of the words that your embedding never saw, you then would put those words in and get an embedding, right? And it wouldn't have been trained on them, so that's actually good. Yeah, so it does make sense. Sorry, I had me worried there for a second. So you can train pick 10%, 20% of your words to leave out and basically learn, because here you're learning and embedding from scratch. So it's going to learn on these 80% of the words, and that's what it's going to be based on. And so when you get an embedding off these ones, it's never seen those words before, and you have to see what it gives you, right? If those words were in the training set, then obviously it's going to give something consistent with them. Whereas this model, it's already trained on some other words, so essentially all your data is test. Yeah, because here you're training something new, so it still makes sense to do this. I'm not sure if it's necessarily the best practice in natural language processing. It's not super expertise for me, so we can check into that, but that's the way you guys can do it. So, okay. Again, the PCA then as well, for these ones, you apply it on the whole data set, because now you've got embeddings that you've trained. This first level of training is coming up with words of vec on these words and getting embeddings, and then you apply PCA to those and get a new embedding, right? Because PCA gives you another level of projection on that. And then your validate and test things are done on the words you didn't have, basically. But when you apply something now, these words that weren't through there, you'd have to apply them to your words of vec embedding and then to your PCA embedding, because you have two levels of kind of projecting, if that makes sense. Okay. So let's try to move on. That is what I'm saying, that we're going to trying to clarify that we yeah, I'm gonna go think about it a bit more and make sure, but my idea right now is as we're saying here, that you train everything on 80% and all the testing and comparison stuff is done on the remainder parts.